What's up guys, welcome back to PTPioneer, the best online resource to starting out as a fitness professional. In today's video, we're going to give you our top tips to passing the NSCA CPT exam. If you guys are looking for a free study guide for this, you can check out the links in the description below. We have it over at PTPioneer.com. And if you're looking for some premium study materials, head over to traineracademy.org. You can find the MVP study program completely free. You just need to find the one for NSCA. And as always guys, don't forget to smash the like button. It definitely helps us out. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So jumping straight into our first tip, it is to understand how to create programs as an NSCA trainer. To start, you need to have a good understanding of the variables that go into training, and you need to understand how we apply this as trainers towards each individual's goals and needs. This includes things such as frequency, intensity, time, all of these different factors that go into the training program itself, in addition to all the styles of training based around what the client needs. For example, if hypertrophy is one of the main goals in addition to building up their general strength, we would apply all of the variables that would contribute to these towards the program for the client. Generally, you need to understand all of the different variables for all of the populations that you will end up training. The general population isn't going to be the only population that you'll be training, so keep in mind special population groups as you're trying to memorize all of this information. The second tip that we have for you guys is understand how you can get the various health assessments for your clients. This would include information such as blood pressure, BMI, cholesterol, and even resting heart rate. Now, it's one thing to be able to collect this information, but it's another thing to be able to classify people accordingly. This is extremely important information, and you will see this come up consistently for most of the questions within the exam. So be sure that you're studying this very well. Now, the third tip that we have for you is to not stress out about understanding and memorizing every single muscle and bone. Overall, you won't be tested on the very detailed anatomy in terms of insertions of where the bones and the muscle are. Generally, this will be a huge waste of time for you if you're studying and preparing for the exam. So this is something that you just need to skim over just generally, as long as you have the basic information. In general, you might see maybe one or two questions on the exam. Other than that, you might see none at all. Now, our fourth tip is to be able to read and answer multiple choice questions. The majority of the questions that you will see on the exam are going to be multiple choice, so it's super important to understand how do you read and understand what are the right answers for each of the multiple choice questions. Starting off, make sure that you read the question carefully. From here, try to identify what is the main focus of this specific question. Be sure to make note of any command words or keywords that would stand out in terms of what the question is asking. Be sure to fully understand all of this information before you proceed to the next step. The next step is in regards to being able to read the question answers carefully. Now, before you do this, try to generate an answer for the question. By doing so, you'll have a better chance at eliminating each of the different question answers one at a time. If you're able to eliminate some of the answers, your ability to answer the question correctly will raise dramatically. Also, be careful with any trick wording because some of the answers might be also correct, but you want to look for the best answer for that specific question. Now, if the main body of the question is going to be very long, it will help if you actually read the question answers and then determine which one would be best suitable for that specific question. By doing so, you might be able to find a potential answer before even answering the question itself. Other strategies that you can implement to be able to answer questions correctly would be to look for opposites in the question. Another tip is to select question answers that are very difficult to choose between. One of these two will most likely be the right answer, so you will be able to identify those right off the bat. Additionally, make sure that you're looking for keywords or statements within the stem of the question. Don't look for particular answers or patterns. Now, another thing to note is that you shouldn't be looking for particular patterns in the answers. If you find patterns within your answers, you might end up selecting an answer that was incorrect. This might lead you to alter a choice that was initially correct. Lastly, be sure to not overanalyze your question, just try to read it for face value. Now, tip number 5 is to spend a lot of time on the techniques of exercise section. Here, it will cover a lot of relevant information such as machine resistance exercises, free weight exercises, flexibility exercises, calisthenic and bodyweight exercises, sports-specific exercises, cardiovascular machines such as a bike, non-machine cardiovascular activities, and alternative training activities. Now, tip number 6 is to understand program planning in depth. You need to be sure that you're able to create programs for special populations. So, here are the things that you need to know. One of the main things for a special population group client is to understand what are their capabilities and limitations. This might include age-specific conditions, most common in older adults or younger children, female-specific conditions such as prenatal or postpartum, individuals with psychological disorders or conditions. This includes things such as eating disorders, individuals with orthopedic disorders, individuals with cardiovascular disorders or conditions such as hypertension, individuals with metabolic conditions such as being overweight or having diabetes, individuals with respiratory disorders or conditions such as asthma, individuals with genetic, cognitive, or neurological disorders, individuals training for a certain sport or competition, individuals with cancer, and individuals with immunological disorders. This is the whole list that we recommend taking a look into when you're studying and preparing for the exam. This is the whole list that we recommend studying and looking into in more detail when you're preparing for the final exam. Now, the next tip is to really treat the main textbook as your main go-to resource. All of the relevant information that you will need when you're preparing for the final exam and going through all of your study guides will be in this textbook. Now, it's highly recommended that you're reading through each of the chapters, and when you're practicing with practice exams and quizzes, you're looking through the textbook and finding the most detailed answer for all of the questions. Now, tip number 8 is to be sure that you're using a study guide. This will help with your study time, as will help you identify what are the main parts to be studying and which parts you can skim over. Now, another tip is to use spaced repetition flashcards. As you're studying within that 3 to 6 month period for this final exam, it is super important that you're revisiting some of the information that you studied previously. By implementing flashcards that will refresh your memory, by using flashcards that will revisit topics that you previously studied, this will allow you to reinforce it in your long-term memory. Now, the final tip that we have is to take as many practice exams and quizzes as you possibly can. All in all, NSCA covers a lot of in-depth information, but you won't necessarily be prepared for the final exam until you actually test yourself on what information you actually know. If you are able to pass the practice tests and quizzes with higher than an 85%, closer to 90% or above, then you will be fully prepared for the final exam. Now, the bonus tip that we have is to make sure that you have a solid study schedule. With all of the resources at hand, with your study guide, as well as the practice exams and quizzes, it is super important to stick to a consistent study schedule in order to prepare for the final exam. This is important if you have other commitments such as a standard 9-to-5 job, or if you're a full-time student. By having dedicated hours to studying this material, you will be better prepared to take the final exam. So those are all the tips that we have for passing the NSCA CPT exam. If you guys want to check out the free study guide for the NSCA CPT exam, check that out over at PTPioneer.com. All of the links can be found in the description. Lastly, if you're looking for additional study materials, head over to traineracademy.org. You can find their MVP study program completely free. All you just need to do is select which certification you're studying for. And don't forget to smash the like button for this video. It definitely helps out the channel. And subscribe if you guys are looking for some more content like this. Other than that, that's it for this video, guys. Good luck studying, and we'll see you guys in the next video.